welcome back to Booze Reviews, where I, Aunt Boo, drink some booze and nobody gives a shit. Let's talk about Baby Reindeer. Baby Reindeer is a TV miniseries that is currently airing on Netflix. It came out on April 11th, and it has 7 episodes. It's created and written by and stars Richard Gadd. It also stars Jessica Gunning and Nava Mao. According to IMDb, the story follows writer and performer Richard Gadd's warped relationship with the female stalker and the impact it has on him as he is ultimately forced to face a deep, dark, buried trauma. Yeah, that about scratches the surface. If you're new to my channel, could you please like and subscribe? That would help me out so much. I appreciate it. This show, movie, miniseries, whatever, however you want to refer to it, it's hard to watch. Before we go any further, I need to issue a trigger warning. I know last week's content was pretty heavy. This is another pretty heavy content one, but it is so fresh on my mind. I just finished it that I had to review it this week. So I know that's 2 weeks in a row where it's kind of serious, but this is so important to talk about. I think it's the thing that a lot of people are talking about right now. So I just finished it. I gotta talk about it. That being said, there is a trigger warning. We're going to be talking about stalking, as that is the main theme of Baby Reindeer. There's also physical assault and assault, which I will probably have to bleep or mute and self-censor the R word. Just be warned, moving forward, if that's not your thing, hey, come back next week where we will discuss Showgirls, which has a lot less sexually confusing scenes in it. I don't know, guys. It's hard to make jokes about this one. This one's really tough. And if you're dying to know, I am just drinking a Diet Coke tonight because that's what she orders from the bar. And also, I don't always have to drink. Well, it is booze reviews, but so Baby Reindeer, where do I begin? I had a really interesting discussion with my sister-in-law, who was the only other person I could find who had watched it when I was ready to talk about it. And her comment pretty much, I think, hits the nail on the head when it comes to this show. She said, it feels like I'm not supposed to be watching this. It feels wrong watching this because it's so personal and intimate, and this actually happened to him and he's reenacting it. Richard Gadd. He is reenacting the most profound trauma that he's ever experienced for entertainment purposes, really, and for storytelling. Ultimately, when you're a storyteller, you do it because it's cathartic. You do it because there's healing and finding meaning in things. But this is another level. So in the one-man show, he uses his own name, but in the Netflix series, he changes his name to Donnie Dunn. And I read an interview where he said he did this because it's a level of detachment. You know, in the one-man show, he's playing all of the characters himself. But in this series, in the Netflix series, there are other people reenacting this abuse on him, this assault on him, and he needs a level of detachment from that. When you're recording something, you're gonna do a couple of takes. If you've watched this, you know in particular episode 4 is really difficult. I personally can't imagine having to reenact that. It blows my mind what this man was able to do, and he does it well. He is a fantastic actor, by the way, and I hope he goes on to do other things that don't require so much soul sucking from him, that don't require him to revisit all of this trauma. Okay, so Baby Reindeer. We open with a man trying to file a police report on a woman who is stalking him. He's trying to get police attention, and they're not taking him very seriously. They say it is very difficult to prove stalking and to get restraining orders in Britain. I think it's pretty much the same way here. I don't have a ton of experience with stalking. I had a boyfriend one time who kept calling my work and showed up at my work one time after I had broken up with him. Because believe it or not, your old Aunt Boo used to be a hot little piece. You know, threatening a restraining order on him pretty much took care of all of that. Nothing to the degree of what Martha does to Donnie in Baby Reindeer. So as he recalls how he first met Martha, she was pretty pathetic, a pitiful person. She looked very sad. She came in and sat at the bar where he works. Now, Donnie is a struggling comedian. He's a struggling writer, stand-up comic. He's not very good. He's just not very good at comedy, which I honestly thought were some of the funnier moments when he bombs. She comes in and she sits down and he offers her a drink. You know, what would you like to drink? She can't pay for anything. So he offers her a cup of tea on the house. She looks up, stares into his big ol' eyes, and immediately crushes on him. She shows up the next day, and then she keeps showing up. And she orders Diet Cokes, and he gives them to her for free. He enjoys her company at first. She's very weird. Once she starts talking, we learn that she's pretty Kooksville. We kind of pick up that she's a pathological liar. It doesn't take long to figure out that if she were what she was saying she was, which was this high-powered attorney with all of these very powerful friends, she'd probably have enough money to afford a Diet Coke. And he follows her home out of curiosity one night, which is a huge, stupid thing to do. She becomes utterly obsessed with him. She starts showing up at some of his comedy shows, and at first, because she has this great laugh that's also kind of maniacal, she actually helps one of his shows. He's able to use that to loosen up the crowd and get comfortable. He is not successful, but I feel like he's still pretty young. Like, he's in his 20s, I believe, when this takes place. And he's living at his ex-girlfriend's mother's house for free. She rents him a room for free. At first, he enjoys the attention of Martha, even though this is a woman that he's very clear with her that he doesn't have romantic feelings for her. He doesn't want that kind of relationship with her. He's curious about her because her lies are so fantastic and delusional, and she is definitely mentally ill, and he can't quite put his finger on what is going on with her. And yet, he kind of indulges her. You could even say he leads her on in a couple of scenes. But he genuinely does enjoy this certain amount of attention, and he says as much. This show is a masterclass in writing, by the way. This is top tier writing. This is probably one of the best written shows that I've seen since Fleabag, Atlanta. It is incredibly written. So Richard Gadd, he just nails it in the writing department. That's what my sister-in-law was alluding to, that it's this first person account. And so it is very intimate and very personal. These are very private moments that we're witnessing here. I don't know what took him so long, but eventually he Googles Martha and looks her up because she friend requests him on Facebook. And so he Googles her. To no one's surprise, Martha is a convicted stalker, which means she was arrested, tried, and convicted and served time for stalking. That's a huge red flag, right? And yet, that episode ends with him accepting her friend request. He accepts her friend request, knowing she's a convicted stalker. And then, of course, there is another character who I believe to be the heart of the show, and her name is Terry. And this is Donnie's new girlfriend. He meets Terry, and they start a relationship. He absolutely adores her. He's in love with her. And even she, once she learns about Martha, even she is like, I think there's some part of you that enjoys it. There has to be some part of you that gets something out of this relationship, because it is not one-sided. And that's the most disturbing thing, I think, in the beginning, in the first 3 episodes. It is not just Martha being completely delusional and pursuing him. He does enjoy it, and he is painfully self-aware of it. And it adds fuel to his self-flagellation, which we witness throughout the entire series. We watch him spiral more and more into desperate self-hatred. And it's painful to watch. We want to sympathize with him. We want to empathize with him. He's the protagonist of the show. I think this is why it makes people so uncomfortable, because he is not an easy character to like. He makes some really shitty choices. And while he is ultimately a victim, he doesn't help himself. And it challenges the audience big time. It is really difficult to feel sorry for him. It's also really difficult to feel sorry for Martha, because as Martha is initially set up to be sort of a pitiful character, and we kind of feel sorry for her when he feels sorry for her. Martha has something wrong with her. She's mentally ill. But she also does shitty things. In fact, she takes it to such a degree where she really pisses me off. And it's hard to excuse some of her behavior with just, oh, she's mentally ill. Well, no, she needs a lot of help, and she should be locked up. She's an endangerment to not just Donnie, but everyone Donnie is in contact with. Basically, there is so much nuance in this series that it forces us into a position of discomfort in a setting that usually spoon feeds us how we should feel, who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. We as a society love to put people in boxes, don't we? We like our bumper stickers. We like our 140 character explanations on Twitter or wherever. You don't get nuance on social media. There's not a lot of depth of character to people. We always see people on screens as two-dimensional. Do you want to know how I know this? I don't even have 300 subscribers, and I've gotten trolls or just random people commenting very odd things on my channel. And you don't know me. You see about 10 seconds of my video and you think that you know who I am enough to insult me or make broad judgments about me. But we do this all the time because we're kind of garbage. People are kind of garbage, and we see someone on a screen, we size them up immediately, we project onto them all of our past, all of our baggage, all of our preconceived notions. We've done it throughout time, but it is so much easier now as a society to do this. I mean, for a while, we only saw the people in our lives on screens. And there's something dehumanizing when you see someone on a screen and you are extremely detached from that person. You feel like you can just immediately size them up and then discard them. And it happens all the damn time. I was in a Christian rock band when I was in my 20s. Now I say Christian rock band, it was a youth band, and we played gigs at like lock-ins and youth events and stuff in the tri-state area or bi-state area, I don't even know. And it was fun, and I was young, and I loved it. The drummer in that band, his name was Kenny, and he was a good friend of mine. He was a good guy. And, you know, we kind of grew up together in that time in our lives. And I never had an issue with Kenny. And if I saw him walking down the street now, I'd go give him a hug and I'd say, hey, buddy, how you doing? So a while back, I believe it was the 2016 election, there was a town hall meeting in our area. And lo and behold, who did I see on the panel in a little red sweater but Ken Bone? And I called to my husband, I'm like, it's Kenny. Look, it's Kenny. And he's like, oh yeah, that's funny. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh yeah, that's Kenny, cool. He gets to be on TV. Well, all you assholes, yeah, I'm calling all you motherfuckers out, all right? All of you assholes decided that Ken Bone was meme-worthy, and you projected onto him a personality that he's funny, he's quirky, he certainly looks quirky. He was just Kenny. He's just this guy I knew. And then everyone projected onto him, I don't know, celebrity status, because you found him hilarious. Just his very existence, just his appearance. You deemed, you all made a joke out of it. Some of you were kind about it. I'll say some of you were genuinely like, oh, he's cute. What a cute little guy. Oh, he's Ken Bone. And he became this meme. He became this mythical Ken Bone, okay? And he was catapulted into internet stardom for like a day. This very real, pretty normal guy that I knew once. He turns out to be an actual human being, a human male, like all of you assholes out there. He did something stupid. He didn't know he was going to be famous. And what if someone found out all your garbage? If someone goes looking through my garbage, they're going to find some shit. I'm not perfect, and I never declared myself to be, and neither did Kenny. But people, they made him into something that he wasn't, and then they turned on him the minute he wasn't that thing. That's fucked up. Has anyone gone through your search history lately? And again, it's just so bizarre, and it's just so telling how easy it is for us to dehumanize people because we see them on a screen. And then to, I don't know, just fucking cancel them. Because when you dehumanize someone, when they don't seem real to you, it is super easy to discard them. And so, I don't know if Kenny ever watches this. Hey, bud, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Baby Reindeer, it's an uncomfortable watch because it asks a lot of us. We have to sit in the tension that the protagonist and the antagonist in this movie, the both of these characters, both of them are victims, and both of them do shitty things. This is a both and situation. When we are, for the most part, most people in our society are either or people. You'll look at somebody, you're either this or you're that. We don't give people the benefit of being both this and that. These two characters in particular are full of depth, backstory, trauma. They're real people. Even if they're playing out on the screen in front of us, like they're characters in a show, these are real people. They are written true. That's how you know this is good writing, because it feels true. I'm sure there are elements of the show that are over-exaggerated or fictionalized for continuity, storytelling purposes, but it all feels true. What happens in episode 4 to Donnie Dunn and to Richard Gadd is we see what led up to this. It's a flashback episode where a couple years prior to him meeting Martha, he meets a famous writer who catches one of his shows. And this famous writer thinks that he has something. And he offers to take Donnie under his wing, give him a few tips about his show. He takes him to a few industry events. And he helps him. He genuinely helps him refine some of the comedy, which desperately needed to be refined. Later on, when they end up in the same city together, he calls Donnie, hey, you want to come over and hang out? And Donnie's like, yeah, I got the script. I'd love to show it to you. And the friend is like, bring it on over. Let's hang out. They end up doing drugs. He kind of blows off the script and they get high. And their next couple of meetings are exactly the same thing. Hey, come over, we'll talk about the script. They end up getting high. And one of those times, he takes something that kind of knocks him out. He wakes up to being assaulted by this man. And he definitely wakes up long enough to know what's happening and to know it's wrong, to know that this entire thing was wrong. And he goes on to say, he didn't leave right away. He even stayed. It's so hard to watch, for one, because this actually happened to him. He is reenacting his assault. I can't even imagine. But the other thing is, if you have never been in that situation, if you've never been abused, or if you've never been assaulted, you don't understand the level of shame that happens during and after. And it's crippling. You freeze. You freeze. He has this freeze response. This event sends him on this spiral of self-hatred and shame. And he begins to ask all of the questions that anyone who's ever been abused asks themselves. Was this something about me? And then he's confused about his sexuality, of course. Was it something I was putting out there that I wasn't aware of? And now that this has happened to me, is this who I am now? Am I gay? Am I straight? Am I bi? And so he loses his sex drive with his partner at the time, the girlfriend whose mom he lives with. He never tells her. He doesn't tell anyone about the assault. And she ends up breaking up with him because he's emotionally distant. He's not into it. He's not interested anymore. And this leads to even more self-hatred and spiraling. And he begins to have reckless sex and sexual encounters with both men and women. He begins meeting people on the internet. And then eventually, he meets someone that he genuinely loves and falls in love with, that he genuinely likes and connects with. And this person is the heart, like I said, the heart of the movie. She's so true to herself. And Terry is transgendered. And again, makes complete sense in the context of the show. Of course, he would be drawn to someone who's transgendered when he has been in this in-between about his sexuality. And it's not just sticking a trans person in the show just to have some woke moment. Even if it wasn't true, even if the character of Terry wasn't transgendered, it doesn't matter. It rings true. It's true to the story. Meaning that it makes sense. It makes sense that this is who he would end up connecting with. And again, I would argue she's the most self-actualized, the healthiest self-image, and she's truly beautiful. She's an incredible person. I love it that she calls him out on his bullshit. But of course, because he's been through this terrible thing and he's full of self-hatred and shame, he can't quite come to terms with his own sexuality. He works in a bar with all of these super manly men, and he just wants to keep this a secret. And so his own transphobia, his own homophobia is making him hate himself even more. He knows what he's doing and he hates it, but he can't stop it. When it comes to Martha, when it comes to doing drugs with the guy, and even when it comes to how he treats Terry, he knows what he's doing is wrong, and yet he can't stop himself. He hates what he's doing, and he hates himself for doing it. And he's stuck in this cycle of bad decisions and kind of shitty behavior, but also he's a victim, and it's like keeps cycling over and over. But it reminds me of in the Bible, in Romans, I think Paul says, I do what I hate, and I hate what I do. And, you know, I'm a sinner, and I hate myself, basically, is like the gist of real people are full of contradiction, and real people are genuinely confusing and complicated. Even the most straightforward people you know have motivations that you may not realize. They may be doing something that was a coping mechanism for them way back in their childhood. So after the assault, he doesn't really tell anyone, stops hanging out with that guy, obviously, but he never reports him. I think it's very telling of how psychologically abusive assault is as well. A good abuser will make you feel like you're complicit in the abuse, They'll make you feel like you enjoy it, like it's love. And they'll definitely make you feel like you deserved it. That's what they do. They're abusers. So all of that happened before Martha ever stepped foot into his bar. And by the time she steps foot in his bar, he is just full of self-loathing and can't even imagine why anyone would be obsessed with him. And he kind of indulges it. It's not like we've never seen stalker movies before, right? I think if Martha would have been more attractive to him, I think this could have taken a very Fatal Attraction type of direction. She does at one point fondle him, and because of his prior experience with that, he freezes up again. That's a trauma response. And so no, he's not allowing her to feel him up. He is freezing from fear. It triggers his trauma. The actress playing her, these are incredible actors, because the actress playing her, again, 1 minute, we feel for her. We feel so sorry for her. And then the next minute, she is doing something crazy, shitty, and violent. Or she's, saying transphobic and homophobic slurs to his girlfriend. Eventually, she attacks his girlfriend, Terry, and he even delays reporting to the police. I don't think he ever reports even that to the police. He reports the harassment. She ends up getting to his mom and dad and starts harassing them. The moment where he cracks, he finally breaks. She physically assaults him. She smashes a glass into him, and he's bleeding and stuff. He shows up, it's the night of his comedy act, so he shows up all kinds of bloody and banged up, and he breaks on stage. He just breaks down and begins telling the entire story of her and also of his, and this is real. You can look this up on YouTube. This actually happened, where he was giving a comedy, he was doing stand-up comedy, and he breaks on stage. He just breaks down and tells everything. And this is how the idea of the one-man show began, and he begins to get interviewed about it. He gets some kind of notoriety over it. There's a brutal moment where, after he has this very public breakdown, and it's out on the internet, it's out on YouTube, he goes to his mom and dad because he wants to come out to them before anyone has an opportunity to out him. And he basically explains what happened to him, and he tells them, I'm dating a transgendered woman. I'm very, I think this is what I want now. And he just comes right out and tells everything to his parents. And then his father confesses that he too was assaulted when he was younger by a priest, of all things. And, oh God, it's gut-wrenching, because that's what shame does. It keeps you hidden. And it makes the thing that you're ashamed of seem like you're the only one that has ever been through this, or you're the only one that's ever done this. But when you start talking about it and you bring the event into light, then you allow other people to say, no, me too. You allow empathy to come in. And it just eliminates the shame. And, we're not really given this cookie cutter ending either, because what ends up happening is he goes back to the guy. And it feels like, it kind of feels surreal. It's like you want him to confront him, but then the guy offers him a job. And we're wondering, is this just, what the hell is this? The guy tells him that, oh, I saw the video. So the guy knows. It's bizarre. And I don't, and that's the thing, like, why go see somebody if it's not going to end in this huge confrontation? Because it doesn't. And that's real life. Because that happens a lot in movies, and that's satisfying in movies. But in real life, you don't always get that satisfying confrontation. You know, I can rehearse arguments in my head and rehearse confrontations with people who have really wronged me. But if I saw that person, I probably wouldn't say any of that. And it's just truer. And that's not satisfying, but it's pretty fucking real. And it's more true to life than, say, if you were to go to that guy and confront him and like punch him out or something. So we want him to punch him out, but that's ultimately not what happens. The police asked him to record all of the voicemails and save them. So he downloads all of the voicemails that she leaves for him, which are like 500 of them. And he categorizes them for the police. Well, he ends up saving them and listening to them after he has this confrontation. He ends up listening to Martha's voicemails. This is after she is sent to jail. This is after, you know, the whole thing seems to be over. It's almost like he believes that she was the only person who saw him the way that he really wanted to be seen. He wanted to be seen like a hero. He wanted to be someone's everything. It's just the person that decided he was their everything was mentally ill and a stalker, and not what he wanted. But he listens to these voicemails, which is just really fucked up. And we end up hearing why she calls him Baby Reindeer, which the whole time when she's calling him Baby Reindeer, we're like, what? That's a weird nickname. That's a weird nickname for someone. Like, you know, baby is a fine nickname, or babe. Even, you know, puppy, puppet, you know, I don't know, kitten. I don't know nicknames. Boo. But it's an odd nickname to call someone Baby Reindeer. She ends up explaining that he looks like a stuffed animal that she had when she was a child, that she would cuddle with, who would make her feel better when no one was around, or when her parents were fighting, or, you know. So he looks like comfort to her. Again, it humanizes her in a way that he wasn't even expecting. It so messes with our concept of good and bad, of right and wrong. And I think it's one of the best written things I've ever watched. You're going to have to watch it, and you're going to have to decide for yourself how you end up feeling about it. It's really rare for a show to show you all the sides of characters. It forces empathy. 1 minute, you can't relate to these people at all, and the next minute, you're bawling your eyes out because you have such empathy for them. You're like, oh my God, yeah, I think I would do that. And damn it, that's good writing. That is such good writing. I hope to see a lot more from Richard Gadd. I think he's a great writer. And I think that if he can tap into this in fiction or, you know, in some other way that's not autobiographical, and hopefully he can have a career that has longevity, because he is an excellent writer. He's phenomenal acting. He'll break your freaking heart. He'll frustrate you. He'll make you angry, and he'll make you cry. And it's just brilliant. It's brilliant. And that's Baby Reindeer.